Welcome to World Rhythm 101, The Basics. My name's Dave Holland. I'll be your instructor during this course. Let's face it, when you enter the community and you've got a drum in your hand, you are the expert. It's very important that you feel confident in playing a wide variety of small percussion instruments and hand drums, so that when you're in a clinical setting, you're comfortable. And let's face it, the more comfortable you are, the more prepared you are to serve your client. That's what World Rhythm 101, The Basics, is all about. Here's what you're going to need. A drum, preferably a body drum, something that's got a body, like a djembe or conga. This happens to be an ngoma, that'd be fine as well. And go ahead and gather around a myriad of small percussion instruments. And it's not necessary that you have the exact instrument that I'm playing or demonstrating on, but you understand the general concept along the way. Go ahead and take a moment to print out your handouts that accompany this course. After that, hey, I think we're ready to go. I'll see you on the other side. So what makes a percussion instrument? We classify percussion instruments in terms of actions. Anything you can shake, anything that you can hit or strike, or any instrument that you're able to create a sound by scraping it. There are two primary types of instruments, these small percussion instruments, and then of course drums. Technically speaking, these little guys, we call them idiophones. There's a little bit of etymology for you. Phone comes from the Greek suffix to make a sound, and then id, if you study psychology, you know that that's the Latin prefix that means one's self. So for example, this is going to sound like the resource itself. I don't even need to hit this for you to have a pretty good idea of what it's going to sound like based on the resource that it's made of. When you introduce a new resource like a skin or a membrane, then you create membranophones. Membranophones, anything with the skin, whether it's natural, plastic, synthetic, whatever. So membranophones are basically the drums. One of the things that you must understand is that when you're playing an instrument, you have to create a relationship with it. I see a lot of folks playing instruments and trying to be very particular in their action, but if an instrument's not moving, it's not making a sound. And if we're not moving, then we're not really creating a good dance with the instrument. So feel free to loosen up, do some warm-ups, do some stretches, and then play your instrument with a big smile and obviously attitude is always the biggest thing to come to any instrument or any setting with, right? And instruments know, I believe, how we are feeling. These instruments, by the way, that we're going to be covering in the basics course come from the African diaspora, West Africa and beyond, Brazil, Caribbean, and North America, with a few Middle Eastern or other cultures thrown in for good measure. So these are generally the concepts and a basic overview. Now let's go ahead and take a look at some drum types and different techniques. So I'm sure you've had this happen to you. If you've ever rolled into a community setting with a bunch of drums, someone is bound to say, "Hey, look at that guy over there," or "that girl," and all the bongos they have, right? Well, it's pretty cute that a resident from a nursing home thinks that every drum in the world is called a bongo. It's important that you and I, that we know better. So let's take a moment to sort of take a look at many of the different style of drums, the shapes of drums, origins, and general names. And even if you don't play Bowron, for example, from Ireland, it's important that you at least know what it's called and where it comes from, so that if someone shows up at your community drum circle with one, you can at least honor it, acknowledge it, and include them into the circle. When you take a look at the history of drums, it sort of starts with this drum here. This is the frame drum. Very, very simple in construction. A circular drum. Originally clay was the form, if you will, the frame, and then wood, and today even metal or other synthetic materials can be used. The skin originally was goat skin, and frame drums were traditionally played up like this, having that sort of dance relationship that we talked about earlier, and played with the fingers. Now, as you move through the different frame drums, the one that I started was the Rick. Originally, frame drums were being played with little zills or little finger cymbals, and then eventually those finger cymbals became incorporated into the frame drum. So now we can play the skin of the drum as well as the jingles themselves. So basically, anything that has the shape of a frame but is played like a drum, we call it a frame drum. And frame drums are generally, as you've noticed, are finger drums. This little guy here is Kanjura. Kanjura comes from South India, and traditionally it has a lizard skin drum. This is a Remo skin deep skin drum. I'm able to bend the pitch by squeezing the drum. Here's a frame drum from Brazil. This tambourine is called pandeiro. It plays samba and other rhythms. When you take a look at this bodhrán, now this is the traditional bodhrán from Ireland, and it's played with one stick. We call it a tipper. Open, it's got a very wide sound, but I'm muting it in the back of my hand here. When you take a look at the bodhrán, a lot of times you'll see this one being played. Glenn Velez made this style of bodhrán very popular. He revolutionized the bodhrán by incorporating many other types of techniques and colors, tapping, brushing, rubbing, a lot of South Indian techniques as well as other snapping techniques from other cultures. And that's a really great drum for therapy work. It has a wonderful warm sound and large enough to be shared with other folks. So let's take a look at body drums. Body drums, any drum that's got a body. This is a small drum that's played with a stick. Comes from Nigeria. There are talking drums in other places in West Africa as well. This one is, the pitch can be changed by squeezing the straps along the side. Here's a body drum from the Middle East. This is Darabuka, originally a clay and skin drum. Darabuka is the name that's generally used throughout the Middle East. Tabla is also used in Egypt. Here in the States we call it doumbek, probably because of the two tones that are played. Doom, the low tone, and bek, the high tone. Well, that's more of what we consider an Americanism when we refer to this drum. Okay, here we go. We're going to the Caribbean. This is the conga. The conga, inspired by the African drum, but these drums are barrel-shaped drums, traditionally with cow skins, and they're played in Cuba and Puerto Rico and other parts of the Caribbean. Over here, the almighty djembe. The djembe has become very popular in this country and other parts of the world as well. It's easily accessible. Throw it into a backpack over your shoulder, and so it's a great drum for drum circles. But remember, it's not the only drum for drum circles. It typically has a goat skin, so a higher tone. It's nice to sort of put this together with some other warmer drums that have thicker skins, like the panlogo. The panlogo comes from the Ga people of Ghana, and it has a thicker skin. It's this one's antelope. Cow is also used, and so it's got you can tell, a nice warmer or mellower tone. This is a great drum to include in any drum circle or community setting. Now this guy right here, he is an ngoma, comes from the Congo. It looks like he's actually on a stand, but he does go all the way down to the floor with these feet. I like this one for facilitation work and community work. 2 or 3 people can play it at the same time, and I'm not wearing a drum or having one, against my body. Real warm tone and a great drum to shill a drum circle. When you're taking a look at putting together a drum kit, if you will, whether it be drum circles or community work, group drumming, it's important to have low-end drums. I love drums that are played with beaters or mallets. I also like these drums that can cradle in your lap or under your arm. These are hand bass drums, if you will. This one's called Rebolo from Brazil. Nice tone there. Now, while it's not a membranophone like everything else we've played so far, we'd be remiss if we didn't at least mention the cajon. We'll cover the cajon later in the course, but the reason we like it is because it does have a lot of different sounds, bass tones and high tones depending on where you play it. The cajon is also great because you can sit on it and then you become more in tune with the folks around you rather than the drum being between you and the folks that you're playing with. So there you go, sort of a whirlwind tour of different types of drums, bass drums, high drums, frame drums, drums with sticks, drums with hands. Now let's go ahead and take a look at, wrap up this overview with some world rhythm concepts. So let's go ahead and take a look at some basic world rhythm concepts. You know, back in the day, early Western composers, they like to keep things pretty safe. Very well organized, all the long notes over on this side of the bar, all together, all the shorter notes over on this side of the bar, all together. So you got, you had a rhythm that sounded like this. Bum bum ba ba bum ba 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 bum bum ba 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 ba. I think you get the idea. And then world rhythm concepts came along from North Africa, West Africa, and sort of turned that upside down on its head. Let's go to the note necks here and I'll show you, sort of give you a visual image of what that looks like. So here in this first group of note necks, here we've got the long note nice and safe over here by himself, and two notes over here, the shorter notes, nice and safe by themselves. Ba, 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 ba. And all we're going to do is simply grab one of these guys and interrupt the entire flow. And what that does is that's going to push this long note up into the air, and this is where world rhythm really creates its magic. But ba 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 ba. Another gift that Africa gave us when it comes to rhythm is the idea of 3 plus 3 plus 2, taking 8 parts of a beat but simply dividing them up a little bit differently. And what that does is it takes a stronger note and moves it over to what we consider to be a weaker beat, or an upbeat, if you will. And so on an instrument that sounds like this. It sounds familiar because it's the underlying pulse of much West African music, as well as Brazilian music, Caribbean, and even North American music, jazz, ragtime, hip hop, that kind of thing. So when we count that out, we count it 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Let's go back to the note necks and just take a look at what that looks like. So here we've got our group of eighth notes, and now all we're going to do is simply create a group of 3, and a group of 3, and then a group of 2. And so ba 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 ba. And we'll go ahead and take away the sound of the anything other than the grouping, the first part of the grouping right there. Aha. And now what we've got is ba 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 ba. So as players and lovers of world rhythm, it's important that we not only understand many of these concepts, but that we can also play them or express them either on an instrument or in body percussion. I like body percussion a lot because it's a natural way to sort of get these rhythms into our body and feel comfortable. And go ahead and stand up and let's go ahead and express this with our feet and our hands. This concept of 3 plus 3 plus 2. We're going to start with a simple pulse on our feet. Step, 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 and we'll clap that pulse with our hands like this. And clap and clap and clap, clap. So you notice that this is the downbeat. Now let's go ahead and add the upbeat. Now if we continue the eighth notes and then start dividing, let's go ahead and do 8 first. Ready? Like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1. Now we'll break it up. 3 plus 3 plus 2. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1. So So now I'm going to do the exact same thing, but I'm going to accent number 1 with my hands. Recognizing that the second one rather, is going to be coming when one of my feet is up in the air on the upbeat. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1. So now let's take away all the numbers except for the number 1. Here we go. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Step, 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 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1. Hey, how'd you do? You know, for a lot of folks, that last bit, sort of that last transition, can be a little challenging if you haven't done it before. But be patient with yourself, have lots of fun doing it, and recognize that if you can get that down, then when you take your hands or your whatever it is to the drum and you start moving around, that rhythm is going to really help guide you and create a wonderful foundation along the way. So here we go. A nice overview, hopefully for you to get some understanding of instruments, techniques, and concepts. I'll see you in lesson 2.